Today's Sunshine Note is titled, History Will Repeat Itself. On this second occasion, while they were drinking wine, the king again said to Esther, "Tell me, what you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom." Queen Esther replied, "If I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my request, I ask that my life and the lives of my people will be spared. For my people and I have been sold to those who would kill, slaughter, and annihilate us." "Who would do such a thing?" King Xerxes demanded. "Who would be so presumptuous as to touch you?" Esther replied. "This wicked Haman is our adversary and our enemy." Haman grew pale with fright before the king and queen. Then the king jumped to his feet in a rage and went out into the palace garden. Haman, however, stayed behind to plead for his life with the Queen Esther, for he knew that the king intended to kill him. In despair, he fell on the couch where Queen Esther was reclining. Just as the king was returning from the palace garden, the king exclaimed, "Will he even assault the queen right here in the palace before my very eyes?" And as soon as the king spoke this, attendants covered Haman's face, signaling his doom. Then Harbona, one of the king's eunuchs, said, "Haman has set up a sharpened pole that stands 70 feet tall in his own courtyard. He intended to use it to impale Mordecai, the man who saved the king from assassination. Then impale Haman on it," the king ordered. So they impaled Haman on the pole he had set for Mordecai, and the king's anger subsided. Esther chapter 7, verse 7 through 10. Have you ever noticed the startling similarities between the story of Esther and the story of God's people as depicted in Daniel, Revelation, and other parts of the Bible? Think about it. God's people are held captive in a place that is not their home. An accuser stands up, says horrible things about them, and condemns them to death. As their execution date approaches, a hero stands up in defense of his people and enlists the help of a woman. In prophecy, a woman represents a church to fend off the enemy. The enemy has prepared punishment and death for God's people, but what the enemy had planned for God's people actually happens to him. The end. The story of Esther is the story of God's last day people, and because we know the story, we can live in these last days without fear. The enemy will be defeated, and we will stand victorious because of God's grace toward us. May God bless you today.